Sometime in the 1970s, an RAF aircraft crashed in Cumbria. At the nearest RAF facility, a trio of new, inexperienced recruits were summoned, provided with a Land Rover, and sent to the wreck site. They were given the unpopular and tedious task of taking possession of the mostly intact aircraft. As often happens when unimportant servicemen are deposited in the middle of nowhere, far from basic resources or creature comforts, the hapless three were left to rough it. At length one of them headed for a farm, which they'd passed on the way there. Though unaware of any names or map references, the young man was looking for Croglin Grange. The residents of the farm were happy to provide flasks of coffee and sandwiches. And while he waited for these supplies, the young man noticed that one of the downstairs windows had been recently bricked up, and that many iron horseshoes had been set in with the bricks and mortar. Though no expert in folklore or the occult, he knew that iron was considered a charm against evil things. In the gloom of that old farmyard he felt a chill, which he still remembered years later. Please like, subscribe and comment to help my channel grow. Why was the window bricked up? Why was it protected with so many iron horseshoes? Well, the following story will explain everything. Cumbria is next to the southern border of Scotland. In times past, Scots from the lowlands would sweep down in raids to seize cattle and land. The countryside is rugged and austere. It knows harsh winters and thick snows. Croglin, like many Cumbrian villages, has changed little over the centuries. The same can be said of Croglin Grange or Croglin Low Hall, which features in our story. In the nearby village of Renwick, it is said that a cockatrice, a kind of winged serpent, a cousin of the traditional European dragon, took up residence in the spire of a ruined church. According to some versions of the story, a brave local man killed the creature. But other versions say that the creature survived and is still seen from time to time. This area has many such stories of ghosts, wandering spirits and strange, frightening beasts, which seemingly belong to ages long forgotten. Now there are a range of cottages, farmhouses and even repurposed stately homes available to vacationists. Cumbria might be a very interesting destination for seekers of the supernatural.
You crave one kiss of my clay-cold lips, but my breath smells earthy strong. If you have one kiss of my clay-cold lips, your time will not be long.
The first written account of the Croglin Vampire was produced by Augustus Hare in The Story of My Life, published in several volumes between 1896 and 1903. For most of his career as a writer, Hare, who lived from 1834 to 1903, produced worthy but less than stellar books, usually biographies of noted and titled people, some of whom were his relatives, and works about travel. However, he did acquire a reputation for telling rather good ghost stories at house parties and social gatherings. On the night of his own wedding banquet, hosted by a Mr. Fisher, Hare apparently told several supernatural tales that were much enjoyed by the other participants. Perhaps his host was a little envious of the stir caused by Hare's stories. At any rate, he offered one of his own, and it was, he said, a tale connected with his family and one of their properties, Croglin Grange, or Croglin Low Hall. It is highly likely that Mr. Fisher somewhat enlarged the wealth and social position of his family. Indeed, some later researchers were inclined to believe that the Fishers did not actually own Croglin Grange and were, in fact, leasing it. However, this is when modern research gets quite interesting, because the Fishers had acquired another house at Thornycombe near Guildford, with adjacent farmlands which evidently provided them with a much less productive and harder to work living than the lands around Croglin Grange. So one has to ask why they moved away from the better, more profitable property and stayed away for at least 2 generations, preferring to rent it out to strangers. Had the Fishers encountered something that scared them away? In the late 1860s, 3 siblings, Edward, William and Amelia Cranswell, acquired a 7-year lease on Croglin Grange. Amelia was 19 years old. The Cranswells soon gained respect and popularity with the tenants who worked the farms attached to the Grange. They showed themselves to be considerate, tactful and generous. Their first summer in the house turned out to be exceptionally warm. One night, when the heat was still oppressive, long after Amelia had retired to her room, the girl tried, without success, to sleep. Her window was closed, but its shutters were open, giving her extensive views of the surrounding countryside. She lay in bed, propped up on her pillows, too hot for comfort, yet enjoying the moonlit landscapes. At length, she fancied that she saw 2 strange dots of red light, which seemed to be coming closer to the house. Her interest shifted to a kind of fearful fascination when she realized that the lights were part of a vaguely human figure, glowing eyes in an as yet indistinct face. She watched, paralyzed with horror and disbelief, as it came closer and closer, a thing of darkness which seemed to melt in and out of the moon-struck shadows, merging with its surroundings, camouflaged by its very nature. It reached her window. She wanted to flee the room, but the door was right by that window and locked. She dreaded being so close to it, even for the moment it would take to unlock her door. It paused at the window, long fingers touching the leaded glass panes. Then, seemingly checked by that barrier, moved away as if it intended to walk around the house, seeking another way in. She seized her opportunity and went to the door. As she reached for the key and handle, she heard a sickening sound that made her nerves jangle. fingernails scraping a chalkboard. She realised that the intruder was scratching away the lead, which fixed the window panes in place. A pane dropped to the ground and shattered. It reached inside, undid the catch, and in seconds it was upon her. Amelia was catatonic with shock, unable to move or call out. It grabbed her hair, pulled her head back and bit her neck. The pain broke the spell upon her. She screamed. Her brothers heard and ran to her aid. For long moments the locked door barred their way, until they took a poker from the fireplace and forced the lock. The creature fled through the bedroom window. One of the brothers gave chase, while the other tended to Amelia. The stranger evaded pursuit, racing onwards with incredibly huge strides, and finally being lost to sight after bounding over the wall of a churchyard. The girl had received a serious but not fatal injury. As she recovered, the siblings strove to understand what had happened. Despite the strange circumstances, they preferred a down-to-earth explanation. They concluded that perhaps some vicious escaped lunatic had invaded their home, and decided that it would be sensible if Amelia might take a break from the scene of her traumatic experience. Thus, they went on a tour of Switzerland. This vacation soon worked wonders, and, her health restored, Amelia began to think about going home again. Her brothers concurred. After all, they had a 7-year lease, and they'd been happy at Croglin. They resolved to bid farewell to the beautiful Swiss countryside and return to Cumbria. They resumed the activities and habits they had left behind, and all was well. The local people were glad to see them back. Month followed month. Nothing untoward happened. Then, one March evening, as Amelia lay in her bed, as before, with the shutters of her window wide open, she saw the thing again, stealing across the moonlit meadows. The thing approached the house. It came to the window and put its fingernails to work on the lead between the glass panes. Soon it was inside. But this time Amelia did not hesitate. She screamed. Her brothers had been sleeping with loaded pistols near their beds. They came running. The creature leapt through the window. They pursued. One of them fired a shot. The creature staggered and stumbled, but kept moving. It bounded again over the wall of the local churchyard. The brothers hesitated to pursue during the hours of darkness, when evil is at its strongest. So they waited, and in the morning they gathered reinforcements amongst the local farmers and villagers. In the oldest, most desolate part of the graveyard, they found a tomb which belonged to a once eminent but now extinct family. Its formidable doors were not locked. Entering and descending down its steep stone staircase, They found several smashed and broken coffins, and one coffin which was intact. The occupant of that coffin had a fresh gunshot wound on one of his legs. The coffin was dragged outside into the strengthening daylight and set on fire. It and the thing inside it were burnt to ashes, and the Croglin Vampire was never seen again.